Let's take you live now to Scarborough, where mayoral candidate, former Toronto Police Chief Mark Saunders is unveiling his housing plan. We'll listen in live.
Supportive housing, for affordable housing, for transition housing, they're not there. They're not being built. And this has been a failure for a multitude of years, and it has to stop right now.
But Mark, so many of those two things are connected, though. The process, what you're talking about, and the lack of funding from the city or the federal government, from the province to the federal government, in terms of slowing up the process of getting things done. So how do you reconcile the need for funding from the province and the federal government and the city being at the mercy of those two higher levels of government to get things like this done?
In order to build, we need builders. Builders are not coming to Toronto. They're going elsewhere. This city has discouraged builders. So if I gave you a house and you paid $1 million for that house, however, you couldn't move into it until certain criteria was made, but you have to give that money up front. And there's no accountability for when that process actually starts taking effect and move, and it could take an average of 3 to 5 years, which is what's going on in the city. At the end of the day, that money is downloaded to the final person who either purchased or to taxpayers. This is what I'm talking about. This is the first step. If we can't make it past the first step, we're not taking any other steps. That's what's critical. Bringing developers, bringing builders to the table where they'll have an interest in building. We have to hit our target of 285,000 within the next 10 years. And it starts with the first step. And that's the process. And that process has been declared a failure for many entities. And even when we talk on Build and their report that they handed to every single candidate, which spoke on cutting the red tape and its necessity and the fact that Toronto is scored last out of all of the other cities. We have to move to first. We have the most critical environment right now when we talk to homelessness, when we talk about affordability and the supportive housing. But it starts with the first step, and that's understanding and identifying that the process that exists is failed.
Mark, can I ask that you can say that the people at City Hall have done a bad job, but the fact is the current councillors and former councillors like Anna Bailau have approved housing. They've gone through the process. They've sat through the long meetings, and some housing has been built. There is more in Toronto than there used to be. So why should Toronto voters say, no, the former police chief is the guy who knows more about housing than those people who approved housing?
Well, I don't say that I know better. I say that a lot of experts know better. So we're standing right here on one of the 11 sites, city property. This is city property. And out of these 11 sites, nothing has happened. I'm saying that out of the 19,700 places that are supposed to be built, we are building at a pace of less than 2% a year. This is not me making this up. These are the facts, and this is what I'm identifying. And I'm not putting it on city councilors at all. I'm putting on the existing process, and I'm saying that the process has to change. When we look at the state of our city and the state that it's in, it is not healthy. It simply is not healthy. In order to make it healthy again, the first step is identifying where the key problems are and dealing with those problems and being in the leadership position to make that happen. The city councils want to get it done, but we have to change the process, and that's what I'm talking about.
Good morning, Mr. Saunders. A lot of the candidates have been talking about affordable housing and other issues. However, these are large issues. They're provincial, they're federal.
Yeah.
What would you say to the federal government? What would you say to the provincial government? How would you achieve these housing goals? The way it is right now, housing in the city, you're looking at $1 million or more for a house. You're talking about essentially devaluing it or limiting investors and purchasers for this. How would you go about that? How would you talk to the other levels of government? What would you like to achieve there?
Well, first and foremost, we have to build. I think it's clear. Everyone has stated that we are in a crisis state, and we are. In order for us to do this properly, all levels of government have to be involved. But in order for all government to be involved, we have to make sure that our systems are ready to go, are running on all cylinders. The fact that we're standing on city property that has been agreed on 4 years ago, and there's no shovel here, that clearly states that we have a problem. Once we solve that problem, we can start figuring out how to get that money. We're not going to do it alone. We absolutely cannot do it alone, but working with the other levels of government will be key to our success. I've worked with government before. I'll continue to work with government. At the end of the day, it is a necessity and a priority. A lot of people cannot be here right now because we have short supply. The vacancy rate is 1.7. We need to move, and we need to move fast in order to make that happen. Clearly, we are not moving fast. In fact, I'll say we're moving incredibly slow. Okay. Thank you, everyone.